So here we are outside the Scottish Parliament, and I find myself again commenting on another British man in jail for actually reporting on an alleged Muslim sex grooming gang, and basically Tommy Robinson is now a product of the British political class and the British elite who have now signed us up to a process which they haven't actually told us about, and they haven't actually discussed what the actual process is. So I'm here to actually discuss this and explain why Tommy Robinson is now in jail. So and this is basically about global politics. This is not, Tommy Robinson is a product of the globalists and the global agenda that has already been set out. And Tommy Robinson is now reacting to the downsides of this agenda. So what is that agenda? Well, way back when the EEC, and where we were signed up to the EEC by the people who had already signed up to the globalist agenda, some of the political elite, not all of them, but some of the political elite had already had their private organisations and their private meeting groups, and they were basically signed up to the process of unions, international unions. That started from the international trading agreements. The international trading agreements would have been the start of the European the EEC and the European Economic Community, which was a trading agreement and the predecessor to the European Union. The European Union was a political union rather than actually just a process to bring countries closer together from a trading point of view and reduce tariffs. So that was basically the start, and the process started towards what is now the European Union, increasing union, a political union and a monetary union. But that wasn't how it started. It was started basically to have a free trade agreement. And similarly to that, we have seen now in Africa as well, and very recently in Africa, the moves towards an African Union. The African Union is basically the same as the EU, and basically the Africans have now all signed up to having an African Union, a free trade union as well. So that process has already started for them as well. But in 1995, Jacques Chirac had actually signed us up to the Barcelona process. The Barcelona process, similar to the EEC when the EEC started up as a trading organisation, was to allow people to trade from the North African and also the Near Eastern countries. So that was basically started in 1995 by Jacques Chirac. Another noble intention going haywire, where the fact that he wanted to have increased cooperation between Islamic and non-Islamic Western countries, and that process was started. That process was reaffirmed later on. I think it was 2010. With the Treaty or the Union of the Mediterranean. That was another treaty basically along the same lines, that was basically between the EU and the North African Islamic countries. And basically what that said was that we were going to have free trade, a bit like the EEC, and freedom of movement. So although that what we're being told in the usual manipulation of us average people by the media is that these people are all refugees that are coming into the European Union, whereas the reality is that the process had already been started. The freedom of movement had already been signed up to. And it's much easier for people to feel sorry for other people if the lie which has been put about that these are not economic migrants, which the majority of them are, that these are refugees, genuine refugees fleeing from harm. So that was basically the cover story because of the fact that we had already signed up to this process of freedom of movement. And those that think that Theresa May is anything other than part of this, including Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland as well, Angela Merkel, all of them are all signed up to this increased globalisation and the moves towards a globalist government. We've already seen that the African Union just very recently is now coming together. So if there's a treaty of union and a freedom of movement from the Union of the Mediterranean, then there's going to be a freedom movement from Africa in all African countries. Then anybody from Africa will be able to travel to anywhere in Europe, and basically through weight of numbers, which we've already seen happening in the UK, displace the indigenous population. So that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the displacement of the people that are already here through the globalist agenda. So what is the reasons behind the globalist agenda? Some things are good, some things aren't, as usual. The free trade and the ability to trade freely with other countries is obviously a very good thing. And that's something that should be welcomed, and it doesn't really matter if it's within a nation state, but the ability to trade freely and without the government's interference is obviously a good thing. However, freedom of movement is a rather strange concept, that I have the right to travel anywhere and I'm going to be welcomed in to any country. Now, some places are probably going to be more favourable or more desirable than other countries. And unless you're building massive amounts of housing, you're going to have to replace the population, which we've already seen. There's certain constituencies in England where the actual population, the indigenous population, has been completely replaced. And we're now seeing, such as Luton, where Tommy Robinson comes from, a clash of civilisations between, it's not that people who are Islamic are wanting to integrate into the society, they want to retain their Islamic beliefs, which are completely incompatible. If you're holding fundamental Islamic beliefs, it's a theocratically fascist system of governance. It's intolerant of women, it's misogynistic, it's got a number of really deeply troubling aspects to it. And these are not compatible with a liberal and tolerant United Kingdom, which has basically been the inspiration for many countries throughout the world. Although individual Muslims can be liberal and tolerant, I'm talking purely about the actual Quran and what it says in the Quran. So Tommy Robinson came out of Luton seeing the abuse, the victimisation by Muslims on non-Muslims in that town. And obviously he formed the English Defence League. But really, the problem is not at that local level. The problem is that, well, Theresa May, Nicola Sturgeon, let's name them, the person that's in charge of the Welsh Party as well, another globalist, Tony Blair, every Prime Minister, David Cameron, Gordon Brown, they were all in this, or all followed the globalist agenda. And what is the globalist agenda? The globalist agenda is one political government, one monetary government, and basically one religion. And that's basically the objective of the globalists, to actually move closer and closer towards this one world government. And basically what's actually happening here is that that process is actually still going ahead. And the fact that we voted for Brexit will not matter. They will still push, and Theresa May is a Remainer. The globalist agenda is still moving forward. It's not stopped. and it's not going away. They want a single world government, and that is the agenda. And many politicians have signed up to it. That we don't know that that is their underlying memorandum or a manifesto. We've got this other manifesto that they give to us, but the underlying manifesto of the globalists is towards a global government. And we only have to look at what's actually happening to actually see that this is correct. So we've now got the police locking people up that criticise Islam. We are allowing in Islamic terrorists to the UK, but we're locking out Lawrence Southern, who's a journalist who criticised or actually brought up something derogatory about Islam. But Islam is a child rapist death cult. That's what Islam is. It's not an incredibly destructive, regressive religion, and you have the right to criticise it. It's not something that's above criticism by any stretch of the imagination. It's not above criticism. But now we have a Muslim Home Secretary who is now locking up and persecuting non-Muslims, which, as again it says in the actual Quran for them to do. So we're now at a really, really awkward point in the development of the UK, whether we're all signed up to this globalist agenda and whether or not we're actually going to allow people to do this to us and have that process unchallenged. I think it's very important that we now know what the actual objective is, and then be able to attack that objective. And one of the things is that within the Conservative Party, there are many more people who would have voted Remain than is actually represented by the people who are in the country who didn't want to remain. So what has to happen is a bit like the Momentum infiltration of Conservative branches and the actual kicking out of Remain MPs. So you have to join your local branch of your Conservative Party and actually then kick out any Remain MPs. Anybody that follows this globalist agenda, you have to get rid of them. Very similar to what happened because we have a two-party state, and if it's only the Conservatives and the Labour that are going to get in, and only by getting rid of MPs that are basically supportive of the global agenda are you going to actually be able to change what's actually happening. Nigel Farage was very close to actually changing and making a full new party that could have overturned the actual consensus of the Lib Lab Con party. And that nearly happened. That would have been his legacy, rather than actually just getting the Brexit vote, because their agenda has not changed. Their agenda has not changed. The agenda continues, and it will not change anytime soon. So we have to understand what the agenda is. And poor Tommy Robinson, 13 months in prison for basically speaking out on this child rapist death cult, which is Islam. And unfortunately, we've got a member of that now as the Home Secretary. I'm not sure which is going to be worse, him or Diane Abbott. I was hoping that he was going to be different than he's actually turned out to be, although the buck stops with Theresa May, and really she has to go. I mean, she's now long past her sell-by date. I didn't think she was the right person to do it, especially a Remainer when everybody had voted Brexit. And unfortunately, she's now becoming increasingly authoritarian, a bit like Nicola Sturgeon is in Scotland, to push through this globalist agenda. And we're basically now seeing a very unholy alliance between females, whether it be Merkel, May, Sturgeon, on the same agenda. I mean, it was interesting where Nicola Sturgeon had said that she was embarrassed about the SNP being a nationalist party, or it saying nationalist in the name, the SNP name. And obviously we all know she's been pushing to stay part of the undemocratic EU, which basically gets governed by 28 unelected commissioners. So we know that Nicola, and obviously she went to the Trilateral group in America, which is a globalist one world government cabal, and Yeah, so I mean, we think we can tell by what she's actually doing through her actual commentary, what she's actually doing and what her agenda is as well, and that's basically what the situation is just now. We're now seeing the moves to thwart Brexit. We're now seeing moves to make it so unmanageable. I mean, Theresa May's management of this process has been almost laughable, and we're now seeing the fact that the agenda is now going to be actually be changed into one where the process is kind of thwarted, or it's then diluted to what was actually voted on during the referendum. So I mean, I'm really questioning whether or not Theresa May was capable or competent or the right person for actually doing this job. And it looks like we're going to get a deal that nobody's going to be very happy with. And she's negotiated it terribly. And I think she's deliberately negotiated it terribly because she is a Remainer and basically part of the globalist cabal. There are other people, notable people, but a lot of these people are now the globalists, and the people who are on the globalist manifesto are now in some of the most influential places in the world, and that's why more than anything else, whether it be Brexit or through the things that happened with Trump, the globalists actually started to lose, and what's happened in the Hungary as well, because obviously the Hungarians and a lot of the Eastern Europeans are saying that they're not signing up to this the Islamic integration. So this is a big problem just now, and we're going to see more and more pushback now. I mean, I think we're going to starting to see big demonstrations, and for the police to be used in such a disgusting manner, in such an authoritarian way, through whether it be through May or up here with Count Dankula, we're seeing increasingly disgusting things happen with the police. That that's not the usage or the utilage, and should not be at the bequest of the government. We're seeing a politicisation of the police to actually fit into the political agenda of the globalists, and that's not acceptable. Well, I don't know what's going to happen next about the protests, and we should definitely all get out and protest this. We should protest wherever and wherever we can, whether it be from Glasgow, Edinburgh, Cardiff, or London. We should be all going out and protesting in your local town on the back of what's happened to Tommy Robinson. This should not be allowed to stand. 200 Muslims went to a police station with an imam and complained about a guy who threw a brick at a police officer, and they got him out. Well, believe me, there's more than 200 of us, and we will be out protesting. This is it. This is where the buck stops, and we will be protesting. We should be infiltrating the Conservative Party and the Labour Party to actually prevent the globalist and the globalist agenda from actually continuing and actually taking over. We already know that it's not in our interest for that to happen, and we should actually be doing everything we can to prevent the one world government agenda and the increase towards the European Union and the moves towards a centralist politically decision making, which is not accountable to the people, which is how they have actually set up the EU. So yeah, well, we're looking at some big political changes happening soon. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable the way things are actually happening. It's not acceptable for the police. It's not acceptable for the court system. It's not acceptable for anything that is actually happening here and what sort of society we actually want to live in. And we have to start to get rid of our political class. It's very important that we know what these people represent and who we're actually voting for. I think we vote on a party basis, and we're not voting for them and finding out what they actually represent. Do they believe in a one world government? Do they believe in the increased movement towards a European Union? And this is what we have to go, and this is what we have to do and move towards. So the fight is on, guys, and I feel very sorry for Tommy Robinson again. I believe he's been assaulted in prison as well. So this is not happen. This should not be continuing. Funny how that these people who have been trafficking these young girls, I mean, they're children as young as 11, trafficking these young girls are being supported by the same political elite that caused the problem in the first place.